Happy Valentine's Day, everyone. Today we're going to learn all about the Forgotten Realms goddess known as Sharess, also originally known as Bast. She is an ancient deity who came to Faerun at the time the Mulhorandi people needed her. But since then, she's become a part of what's considered the general Faerunian pantheon of the Forgotten Realms. This video was brought to you by a Fourthwall hero supporter. My thanks to them and to you for taking the time to learn about the greatest fantasy world setting ever created. With that said, settle back, grab yourself a tasty beverage. It's time to get deeply nerdy. As a god originally from Earth, it's cool to delve into some real history and mythology in this video. So let's go. Sharess, a prominent deity in the Forgotten Realms Dungeons & Dragons setting, shares ancestral roots with the ancient Egyptian Bastet, but has evolved into a distinct goddess with a unique portfolio. She is associated with beauty, pleasure, cats, hedonism, sensual fulfillment, and lust, embodying the independent and pleasure-seeking temperament of a feline. Sharess began her divine journey as Bast within the Mulhorandi pantheon, where she was a lieutenant to Anhur and the patron of cats. During the Second Mulhorandi Empire, she expanded her influence to include felines, nomads, and sensual pleasure, eventually subsuming other divinities like Felidae and Zandalar the Dancer, thereby gaining the portfolio of intense, passionate love. Driven by wanderlust and a sense of dishonor due to an alliance with Set, she left Mulhorand and travelled across Faerun, establishing numerous cults and becoming known as Sharess. You may have seen some of these cults and their holy symbology, which can be the form of a cat head with the golden earrings, or just a sleek black cat, or a topless woman nursing a cat, or of course, and very popular in many locales, a seductive female dancer wearing cat ears. Looking at you, Athkatla and Westgate. Cat cults have obvious appeal, and her worship has spread far and wide, unfortunately to a lot of rather seedy locations. As a result, after the fall of Mithranor, Sharess explored darker aspects of pleasure and came under the influence of Shar, the goddess of darkness. It was Sune, the goddess of beauty and love, who intervened during the time of troubles, freeing Sharess from Shar's control and preventing her complete corruption. This is one of the better case studies for the interactive and reactive nature of gods and worship in the realms, as taverns with exotic dancers and pleasure dens, brothels and such, have also become associated with a good spot to go for healing, particularly of diseases, no questions asked, so certainly something of great use to your average adventuring party. In the Forgotten Realms, gods are everywhere, not just grand and lofty temples. Brothels sell all kinds of relief and have become places, particularly for women, of strong community health support. Kind of the family planning centres, a women's refuge centre, and clinics for sexual health. When a sailor says he's off to see the black cat, or the friendly cat, or, well, lots of very colourful terms are used by sailors, as you can imagine. That's what they're referring to, going to a clinic. In the realms, Sharess is depicted as a voluptuous human female with the head of a cat, symbolizing allure, playfulness, and a unique blend of elegance and primal sensuality. She's also known for toying with mortals, rewarding her devotees with pleasures while punishing those who betray her trust or mistreat felines. I can't stress this enough. In certain cities, you never, ever mistreat cats. To do so will get you a roaring case of the clap, faster than you can say, "It doth burn like the fires of Nessus when I visit yonder privy." Sharess is particularly popular in large urban centres such as Waterdeep, Kellenport, and other Sword Coast ports. Her worship attracts courtesans, artists, bards, and thrill-seekers who embrace her philosophy of ethical hedonism, the pursuit of pleasure without causing harm. Her temples are often opulent, resembling luxurious bathhouses or pleasure gardens, where rituals involve dance, feasting, and the veneration of cats. Professional pleasure seekers, both male and female, revere her. viewing their sexuality as a divine gift and see absolutely nothing wrong with earning a living using that gift. In current D&D lore, despite some debate regarding her canonical status in 5th edition, Sharess remains an acknowledged deity with worshippers and followers, as evidenced by references in contemporary materials like Baldur's Gate 3. Now, Sharess came to the planet Toril a long time ago from the planet Earth as Bast, so let's take a look at her history here and a bit of cosmic lore. Bastet, also known as Bast, is an ancient Egyptian goddess whose veneration dates back to at least the 2nd dynasty, some 4,696 to 4,916 years ago. Her culture was predominantly centered in Bubastis, or modern-day Talbasa, in Lower Egypt, making her one of the most revered deities among both men and women. What I find really cool is that her whole aspect changed alongside the change in the relationship between humans and cats. Initially, Bastet was depicted as a fearsome lioness-headed god, a woman embodying a savage avenger associated with warfare and the sun. In this early form, she shared many characteristics with Sekhmet, representing the aggressive, powerful aspect of divine feline force. She was the lieutenant of the war deity An-Hur, and the eternal enemy of the evil deity Set. Set has been active in the Forgotten Realms, very active, but there's a large story arc many are unaware of as it took place during 4th edition D&D. The concept of deities assuming false personas or operating under different names is a recurring theme in Forgotten Realms lore, and Set exemplifies this through his various manifestations and perceived connections. In the lands of Thay and Unther, Set is commonly recognized by the name Typhon. To the serpent Yuan-Ti, Set is known as Zahir. The identity of Zahir allowed Set's influence to permeate new cultures and exert control over different monstrous races. The Spell Plague, a cataclysmic event that reshaped the cosmos of the Forgotten Realms, had profound implications for the divine pantheon. In the aftermath, many deities found their powers altered, their domains shifted, and their identities re-evaluated. Set was now Zahir, and the worship of Typhon seems to have faded to being less prevalent. Bastet also underwent significant transformation back to Earth's past, softening to that of a domestic cat or a cat-headed woman. This evolution emphasized her nurturing and protective roles, with Sekhmet retaining the fiercer, more destructive aspects. This shift reflects a broader change in Egypt's society perception of cats, from wild, powerful creatures to beloved domestic companions. Bastet's dual nature, fierce protector and gentle guardian, mirrored the independent yet affectionate temperament of felines. Ancient Egyptians were not the first to live with cats, they just did a lot to spread it across the known world during their time. The domestication of cats began earlier, around 10,000 years ago in the Near East, so that's the Fertile Crescent region, including the Levant. This was tied to the rise of agriculture because wildcats were naturally drawn to human grain stores to hunt rodents, leading to what we call a commensal or mutual beneficial, but not fully dependent relationship. The earliest strong evidence is a very old burial site in Cyprus of a human with a cat. Cats aren't native to the island, so humans must have brought one intentionally, showing taming or early domestication predating Egyptian civilization by thousands of years. There was a genetic study of cats in 2017 that strongly suggested that ancient Egyptians refined domestication of cats by selecting for tamer, more sociable traits around 2,000 to 3,000 years ago. This matches up perfectly with changes in religious rituals. Thus, all modern domestic cats descend from the Felis libica population of wildcats in the Near East and North African region, spreading worldwide thanks largely to the Romans taking them with them into Europe. But I digress. Back to Sharess and more details on her in the realms and beyond. She didn't just wander around Faerun far and wide, she also travelled the plains. She is well known on the plain of Arborea and the forest of Arvandor. She subsumed the elven deity Zandalar, who allowed herself to be absorbed willingly so the Ur elves could be protected from the Drow elves, and is known by that name among them, along with the title the Dancing Lady, by the Wild Elves and Star Elves of the Urwood in the nation of Agrarond. The Star Elves are Eladrin from the Sildair region of Feywild. It's technically a vast and demiplane and has the attention of the Shadim of the Ethereal plane, a major planar race who have immense influence on a cosmic scale and dealings with many of the gods of lore and goodness. There are many, many such diverse connections and influences, from which Sharess has gradually built a larger and very diverse power base of worshippers. She very nearly fell into darkness when she was dominated by the goddess Shar, which is where she picked up the name Sharess, but was restored by the goddess Sune, who doused her in the water of Arvandor's Evergold, which is essentially the Fountain of Youth. Currently, she's more commonly known in the realms as Bast, once again, as of the current year. An unusual group involved in her veneration are the mysterious Eyes of the Evening, a cult of werecats devoted to both Bast and Selûne, who hunt down cults of Shar, and the weird fact is they also plague the still remaining clergy of Sharess. This sounds weird because it is weird, but there's a reason behind it. Now, this information comes to us from Polyhedron magazine issue 109, published in 1995, and an article on Sharess by Eric L. Boyd, so I consider it Forgotten Realms gospel, and as such I'm going to quote it directly, word for word. Shar views mortal worship of her aspect as Sharess as the first step in an inevitable corruption and slide towards evil. The clergy of Sharess contains numerous fallen priests and priestesses of Sune, and Shar secretly delights in the weakening of another power. Sharess's priests are expected to live their lives in decadent sensual fulfillment. Many run pleasure houses for themselves and others, or directly serve decadent rulers in large cities. Although humans made up the majority of the clergy of Sharess, elves, half-elves, and the rare halfling may also become specialty priests. Males of any race are limited to at most 10th level as specialty priests of Sharess, but females may advance until reaching racial level limits back when they existed. The clergy of Sharess is split evenly between clerics and specialty priests, with the balance slowly shifting in favor of specialty priests. Alignment restrictions for clergy are weak, with a slide towards evil tolerated, perhaps encouraged. Truly evil priests often secretly shift their worship to Shar while maintaining their positions within the clergy of Sharess. Modern-day Bast's followers are doing pretty well after the big redemption arc. Sune's intervention wasn't just a quick save, she purified Sharess completely with that Evergold dip, a divine day spa basically, yanked her out of Shar's shadow for good, and made her an official exarch of Sune. So now she's like Sune's fun, chaotic sidekick in Arvandor, keeping the beauty, passion, and hedonism going strong without any more corruption risks. The time of trouble's avatar as the Pasha of Kalimport's favourite mistress, peak seclusion, living in luxury, indulging every whim while the gods were stomping around causing havoc. Classic for a goddess who literally embodies sensual fulfillment. She just hung out in Kalimport. Post Second Sundering, she lost a bunch of big temples and public clout. Ed Greenwood confirmed this part. Times got tough for niche powers, but her worship bounced back in quieter ways, especially after the Malharanti rebellion around 1486 Dale Reckoning time. A ton of followers started calling her Bast again, reclaiming that old fierce but playful Malharanti cat patron energy, and it's spreading. The Sword Coast, ports like Waterdeep, Baldur's Gate and the like, are seeing more cat cults and friendly black cat spots. You know, the brothel clinic sailors hit for discreet healing of certain fires. Feast halls keep thriving, and opulent bathhouses style revel hubs with dance, feasting, cat veneration, and no questions asked cures for adventurers. It's all about ethical hedonism. Pursue pleasure, uplift others, protect cats and the vulnerable, and subtly push back against Shar's despair or Leviathar's pain cults. The eyes of the evening are still out there, being awesome and a little terrifying. Those werecat vigilantes serving Bast and Sharess and Selûne, posing as courtesans to gather dirt, then full moon pouncing on Shar cults and any lingering corrupt Sharess holdouts who missed the redemption memo. Because, Shar's old inevitable slide to evil trap from the polyhedron days mostly purged, but shadows linger and those ladies aren't letting it slide. For 5e games, especially the 2024 rules, Sharess Bast doesn't have an official subclass. She's niche post-sundering. Only Bast gets a quick nod in the player's handbook appendix as Goddess of Cats and Vengeance, but no dedicated domain. But if you're building a cleric for her, fans and lore fits point to a few strong picks. Trickery domain is probably the best match. Female guile, seductive illusions, sneaky temptations, and playful deception fit her cat-like independence and pleasure toying perfectly. Use invoke duplicity for doppelganger trysts or misleading enemies, Cloak of Shadows for stealthy rebel escapes, and poison divine strike for aphrodisiac darts that sting. Twilight domain works great too for the nocturnal cat vibe. Night revels, protective auras during dusk prayers or orgy feasts, and temporary hit points for party indulgent sessions, and the eyes of the night for that feline dark vision edge. If you lean into Bast's older Mulhorandi warrior roots, Lieutenant and her foe of Set, War domain gives the whip, staff proficiency, extra attacks for dance-like combat, and that militant pleasure defense feel. Light domain can work via Sune synergy, radiant energy, fiery passionate displays, but it's less core to cat lusts, more in tune with her avatar as the elven goddess of intense passion. For role-playing notes as a player, that flirtatious, curious purr. Treat every day like an endless party, indulge freely but always lift others up. Free the oppressed via pleasure cults, heal without judgment. Adds divine feline quirks, obsessive grooming, sunbeam naps, batting at shiny things or foes. Alignment stays pretty strictly chaotic good. Hedonism, yes, but ethical, never harmful. Complications, jealous lovers, Shar temptations, Orsine's refined beauty crowd judging your wild side. Holy symbol is feminine lips in amber ruby and a cat head with gold earrings, typically. As a DM, make her temples feast halls disguised as taverns. Opulent, cat-filled with NPCs like voluptuous priestesses, tabaxi dancers, or jaded courtesans spying for the faith. For adventures, escort revelers from Shar assassins, reclaim Bast's idols in ruins, infiltrate a Kalimport Pasha's harem for anti-Shar plots. Rewards, aphrodisiac potions, cat familiars, illusionary pleasure zones. Tone is essential rebellion against Faerun's grimness, pleasure as resistance. There you have it, Sharess or Bast, the eternal feline survivor. From Earth Lioness to Mulhorandi Patroness to corrupted Sharess to redeemed exarch of Sune. Never mistreat a cat in her cities or you'll burn worse than the fires of Nessus. Happy Valentine's Day, everyone. Go chase some consensual pleasure, give a cat a scratch, and thanks for joining me on this deep dive into the greatest fantasy setting ever. Thank you for my awesome Fourthwall heroes, channel members, and the auspicious Gluminati. I live to serve your curiosity and your coin. Thank you all to the subscribers and readers of my blogs on Substack. Likes and comments make my cat spooky purr. My name is AJ Pickett, your sage of Candlekeep. Thanks for listening, and as always, I'll be back with more for you very soon.